There was a time in my life where I had so many photos, I might as well have had none. My phone was always out of storage. My notes were scattered across post-its, maybe 4 different apps, and every time I tried to build the perfect system, it lasted about 2 weeks before I abandoned it for a new one. I was chasing planner peace, and I couldn't find it. So I met the Traveler's Notebook. I've tried every notebook system. This is the one I've kept for years now. If you're interested in the most comprehensive guide there is to Traveler's Notebook, then you've come to the right place. So grab your drink of choice, sit back, and relax with me as I go over one of the systems that has carried me through completely different seasons of my life. At its core, the Traveler's Notebook is deceptively simple. It's really just a leather cover held together with a single elastic cord running down the spine. This is the attached string that comes as a bookmark with a little notch at the bottom to help keep it in place. It also has another elastic which is threaded through a hole in the back of the journal and serves to keep the entire journal, inserts and all, securely fastened horizontally this way. What are inserts, you might ask? Inserts or refills are the many different kinds of notebooks that you can thread through the elastic cord, which gives you the modularity to customize the system to your needs. The single cord that's attached to the spine is what makes all the modularity and customization of the system possible. Wouldn't it be so nice that instead of being stuck with one notebook or layout throughout the year, you have a notebook that can be refilled with a planner, with a blank notebook, with a lined notebook for notes, with a grid-type notebook for diagrams and sketching, and it could even have inserts that allow you to organize your pens so that you always have your supplies ready for you and you just have to grab one thing. That's what the Traveler's Notebook system offers. They were the first to do this system and they've been around the longest. There are a variety of Traveler's Factory brand inserts, and many other non-Traveler's Factory brands also offer this size. That's one of the great advantages of this particular system. Instead of one notebook that has to do everything, you get one cover that holds multiple thin notebooks. Because of the many different kinds of inserts that they offer, they can each do their own job. One for daily journaling, one for travel journals and pictures, one for notes, one for sketching, one for painting. They even have these accordion type inserts, which I will show you later. One for whatever you want. And because they're separate and easy to mix and match, you're not stuck with a single grid or layout for the entire year. You build the system around your life instead of bending your life around the system. The covers come in 2 sizes. One is this regular size, also called the standard size. The second size it comes in is this passport size. So you may notice that the elastic band comes vertically on this one. That's because you also have the option to remove the traditional horizontal string binding and fit in other elastics of your choice. In my case, I'm using a plotter lifter with band. It allows me, once inserted into the Kraft folder inside my passport journal, to enclose the notebook vertically instead. The basic setup is super simple. So let's first take this Kraft folder insert, which comes in this nice sturdy paper that, in my case, has seen many trips and even gotten spilled water on. It readily holds 2 passport-sized inserts and has been stamped and stickered gratuitously. You just take your insert and you slide it through the band. And the Traveler's Company inserts typically have little notches at the top and bottom just to allow for more security and no wiggling over time. They also have your typical blank inserts, which in my case, I have peppered with ephemera and pictures from a recent trip to Japan. As an example, you can thread this right through that insert as well. That's one folder insert and one relatively full travel journal that's in my regular sized cover right now. I can actually fit more. For example, this accordion fold insert, which has watercolor paper that can accommodate paintings. In my case, I've used it to sketch during my trip and serve as a nice memento of the highlights of that particular journey. The basic kit includes the cover, one elastic that you can thread through the back, and a spare elastic, which is usually attached to the box that contains the journal. So don't forget to look out for that when you order yours. Now, I threaded that extra elastic through this accordion fold insert, and if I slip it right over this, like so, it threads through nicely, and I have my travel insert as well as an accordion fold that folds out and folds in really neatly. And because the elastic is still visible through there, as you can see, I can even slip this, also Traveler's Company brand, sticker release insert. This paper allows me to stick on and easily peel off stickers for my journals. Though it's quite chunky, the horizontal elastic encloses everything together firmly like this. You have a travel-themed notebook that's ready to go anywhere with you. You can readily pull out your painting tools or sketching tools. You can attach stickers that you gather along your journey, and you have the actual travel journal itself. On top of that, the Kraft folder gives you room to stick receipts, ephemera, and things that you'd like to have ready for your journaling sessions. So this is just one example of a setup that uses the modularity of the system to build an entire theme around a notebook where each insert synergizes with each other. I have used the same system for different themes entirely, like daily planning, studying, work notes, life planning, sketching, or even tracking the different matcha and teas and cafes that I go to. Because they're so easy to separate and slip out, the mix and match orientation of this system means that anyone who has a need to put pen to paper can use it, or even photos to paper, or stickers to paper, or paintbrush to paper, as you've seen. What's key is that you build the system around your life instead of building your life around the system. For the longest time, I actually used the passport-sized insert as an everyday carry and a planning journal for my errands, thoughts on the go, and budget. So let's take a peek at what's inside my passport right now. You can buy these sticky pockets, which I have done horrible things to mine, which is why it looks like this, but the concept is the same. You can see all the inserts that I've strung through this olive passport-sized notebook are primarily strung on through that single elastic band right up here. You might also notice that I don't have the horizontal elastic enclosure and it's vertical. Some people get bothered by the little bump, but I find that if you make the knot tight enough, and I often have a Kraft folder anyway, it blocks it enough that writing is really no issue for me. But for my passport size, for some reason, I really enjoy and find it more ergonomic to stick in a vertical enclosure. This is from Plotter. It's what they call the lifter with band, but you can take any piece of thin plastic or cardstock and thread through your band at the top and insert the same card into your Kraft folder. Now you have a stable way to enclose it on the vertical side. Admittedly, if you do this when the contents are quite chunky, it does compress the top a bit more. But honestly, I don't really mind that because I like the quality of the leather. It's thick enough to withstand a beating, and obviously with my tools, I buy to use, not to collect. The patina that it develops over time is also one of the wonderful selling points, at least for me. I don't condition my covers all that frequently, just around once or twice a year when I notice the leather is getting a bit dry. And Traveler's Company also offers their own care kit for that. In my case, since I have leather conditioner on hand for my bags and shoes, I just utilize the same thing on the covers once a year. Over time, you're gonna get this really nice deepened color, and the variations will make it truly your own. Okay, back to my passport insert. Let's take a look at what's inside. Some off-brand retailers also offer this plastic sleeve, which has a sort of Ziploc enclosure that houses my Traveler's Factory. I call these color pencils for ants. The nice thing about Traveler's Factory is because they've been around for so long, they do a lot of collaborations and accessories that work well with their notebooks. They're based in Japan, and as with most Japanese stationery, it's quite well thought out, and at times the releases are also quirky. So that lives in here. The other side of the sleeve is actually a card slots. So you have a big pocket here, which I have on maple leaf from Japan stored, and card slots in the rear. So some people use their passport size as a wallet, and I've even seen e-readers that are small enough be placed inside a folder or magnetized to the back of one of the inserts for ready reading and note-taking on the go. I think analog tools like this really sharpen our minds and help us slow down enough to properly parse things in a world where you're constantly bombarded with digital information at a scale that's sometimes too rapid to properly absorb. I have a Traveler's Company insert. This is the blank insert, which comes with the really high quality Midori paper, but this is the white version. I use fountain pens, and this paper doesn't ghost or bleed, so you can already see that I smudged, and I think I even spilled some condensation from my drink on this notes page, but the rear of it is completely fine, so you won't really see any bleeding or ghosting on the traveler's notebook inserts because of the high quality paper. I prefer blank inserts for my passport journals because it contains errands, my budget, reference, and on-the-go notes. I just have a really simple shorthand for the kinds of notes that I put in here. And because it's not dated, it doesn't force me to pull this out every single day, just when I need it. So I don't find any wastages of blank pages. And once it's filled up, I transfer what needs to be transferred, and I don't really mind tossing these kinds of inserts, which are more functional than anything else. I also attempted to stick a little monthly layout just to test if it would work for me in this size, because I do use a multi-pen to color code the many different things I have going on in my life. And because the system worked well for me, I guess the Traveler's Notebook probably had the same thing in mind. And lo and behold, yes, they have an insert for it. This is the monthly passport insert and undated. So you get the month on 2 pages, and you can fill in the specific month and year that you're working with. And this runs, I believe, monthly pages for 14 months. It has a world map and blank pages as well. If you can conceptualize it, Traveler's Company or someone on Etsy or a different brand has probably made an insert for it. For example, this is an insert I got from a local seller. It has the week up above and across 4 quadrants. So you can either use this as an Alistair system where you write out the tasks and then just mark off if it's done, or you can use it for journaling and just highlight which day of the week you are writing on and the date up here. I think that was the original intent, but I used it for task lists and errands that are not work related, but things that I have to remember while I'm out and about as the weeks go by. Seeing it on one spread like this also makes it really easy for me to migrate. So that's why this worked really well as an everyday carry, errands, second brain type of pocket notebook for me. And the Kraft notebook, of course, is great for just sticking in receipts that I process at the end of the week. Really just anything that I don't want to dump in my bag and have it get crumpled. Next, I want to talk you through the different kinds of inserts, just so you understand the sheer variety that they offer. I'll leave a link to the Traveler's Notebook website where you can see the full list of inserts they have, but I'll try as much as possible to be very comprehensive. I'll start with the Traveler's Company brand inserts. They have the usual blank insert, so it comes with paper that's white like this, Midori paper. They also have the same version that's all blank, but the MD cream paper, which is much warmer. This is the refill of the MD paper cream. It's in my archive binder, which I will talk about last. If you can compare, I hope it's coming through on camera, that the MD paper cream is much warmer than the standard blank insert that's really just copy paper white. Both of them have the signature high quality of Midori paper where it doesn't show bleed through all that much. And for fountain pen inks, it showcases the properties of the fountain pen inks like sheen, shimmer, and chromatography and shading really nicely. I used this particular blank insert to keep track of my fountain pen inks. So this is an example of sheening, where the color properties show a different, in this case, a red tone against the base blue of the ink. And if you'll notice, despite the heavy swatches, there's not much ghosting, which is where you can see what's written on the other side of the paper on this side. And there's also no bleeding. So any of the smudges here, you'll see are more user error, my mistakes, because I'm not entirely careful when I was swatching in this first insert before. I also tested out permanent inks, which are waterproof. So even if the paper gets wet, you won't lose your notes. And these are from Diamine if you guys are interested. And they also behave quite well on the paper. They sit really nicely. Well, you're not seeing any bleed through, in fact, on the other side of the page. Okay, so that's the typical blank insert. Next, they also have grid inserts. This is also from the Traveler's Factory brand. It's a collaboration with a brand called Baum-kuchen in LA. And it makes use of a very popular paper in the stationery community called Tomoe river paper. So this is a type of paper from Japan, though there's a lot of history behind it that I won't go into detail into this video about, where the high quality of the paper is beloved for not only for it not showing bleed through or ghosting, handling different colors and properties of fountain pen inks and all sorts of inks very well, but because of how thin it is. So this is, I think, a 52 GSM is the standard. And because it's so thin, you get that really nice crinkly sound. Plus, it's very lightweight to carry. So you get a lot of pages. The typical regular sized inserts usually come in 64 pages. That's one of the things I really love about the brand. Not only the customization, but the commitment to using high quality materials. They do end up a bit more expensive than your average stationery. But for me, the trade-off for the quality that it brings has led me to actually use my stationery more rather than something cost-effective that just sits there, because something about the usage experience, like the texture of the pen on the paper, is not that enjoyable for me. I want to showcase why I love using this particular collaboration insert, which is usually in stock, rather than the typical Traveler's Company plain grid insert. So first of all, the paper that's in this collaboration insert is not white. So it's slightly in between the MD cream paper I showed you earlier and the white. Secondly, the grid is a light gray. So it's not obtrusive like most black ink grid papers. In fact, you can actually see it on this page. Once I start writing, the grid serves as a guide, but once the page is full, it actually blends seamlessly into the background that it's almost like it's not there. So that's the grid insert. It's really useful for anyone who likes having the grid lines or guides to take notes and diagrams and sketches, or anyone who just wants to have the flexibility of a grid without the black lines screaming at you from the paper. So that's insert number 2. And then I did mention that most of the regular Traveler's Notebook come with 64 pages, but there are some with more. So one example is this lightweight paper. It's 128 pages, and they don't explicitly say this is Tomoe River, but I do believe it is at a lighter GSM. This lightweight paper, I have used about, I think, 20 of these in my life because it's even crinklier. I don't know how to get that across on camera. It offers more pages, and it has all the same qualities I mentioned earlier. And it's very light in the hand, and of course, when you pack it into your journals. So I typically use these types of inserts for things where I know I'm going to have a lot of words. So typically when I start prayer or journaling in general, where it's just pen and paper and no stickers, no junk journaling, no ephemera, I can go on for 2 or 3 pages, especially when I have a lot on my mind. I don't like the interruption of having to switch out or running out of pages. And the 128, in the same thickness and lightness as the regular inserts I showed you earlier, is really useful for me in that sense. So if you also take, for example, class notes and you use a fountain pen and you don't mind not having a grid because these only come in blank, then the lightweight paper insert might just be for you. Okay, next, for all the artists out there or anyone who just likes the idea of the accordion fold, it's really good, honestly, for Gantt charts also. I've seen it used for that purpose, tracking syllabi or curriculum or your personal curriculum throughout the year, a habit tracker, etc. This is a new one. This hasn't been used yet. It's blank. It has 2 folded papers to enclose the accordion. And then it has 13 accordion pages, which are made with watercolor paper. It's a thick kind, so it's not light like the earlier inserts that I showed you. And that means it can accommodate paint, pastel, colored pencils, making a collage, arranging photos, etc. Traveler's Company has been around so long, and they're really in touch with their user base that they've been able to develop products that the community would definitely use. And I think this is one of them. So this is the insert number 32. All their inserts have a numbering system, which you can see on the website, linked in the description below. Next is another one of my favorites. These are their Kraft paper inserts. So they're also blank and also really nice quality paper, but they come in different colors. So in the first quarter of this year for my quarterly journal, I used the yellow one, and I really like how this particular insert accommodates stickers and ephemera and whatnot super well. That's why I use it for my quarterly journals, because admittedly, this paper is a bit toothier, so it's not as fountain pen friendly as the rest of the inserts that I showed you. It is great though if you want to stick things in, like in my case, flowers, leaves, pictures, stickers, etc. So yeah, this is from when my dog passed away earlier this year. This is one of the things that I love about the Traveler's Notebook community as well. You not only get to enjoy the inspiration from seeing the spreads of other people who love sharing what they put in their notebook, but also it serves as encouragement to use yours and be creative, because there really are no rules. The Traveler's Company took the concept of make your notebook your own and really elevated it to something that encourages consistent and frequent use. So yeah, that's the Kraft paper inserts. Then I have two final types of inserts to talk about. So one are the exclusive inserts and collaboration inserts, of which this is an example. So the Traveler's Company also broadens their appeal by introducing novelty to the system. They collaborate with other popular brands in Japan and worldwide. They have many partner stores in Asia, the Americas, and Europe. And in Japan, where they originate from, they have several branches that offer branch exclusive or location exclusive inserts. So I picked this up from the biggest Traveler's Factory in Japan, which is called Traveler's Factory Kyoto. And you can only purchase this insert from there. So this is made with green tea leaf paper, and I wish I could somehow transmit the smell to you across the screen, because even after several months of using this, it still smells absolutely wonderful. And because I'm not that creative, and I've mentioned this in my other videos, I use this to track the matcha and tea and even sometimes coffee that I order and drink. It helps me be aware of which ones I like and what tasting notes I look for. And it scratches an itch for me that I track my green tea experiences in a notebook that's made with green tea leaf papers. There are many different kinds of location-specific exclusives, collaborations which run for a limited amount of time, and even the covers. There is a Kyoto exclusive cover, as well as limited edition type covers like this one I showed you earlier. This is called the Yudo edition, and I believe it's not too commonly seen in Japan because this was just released as a companion to a film that was released in Japan. It's centered around the concept of the Japanese bathhouse and how your best ideas can come to you in the bath. So I found that really interesting. They have limited edition inserts. Let me show you the few ones that I've gathered. So this is the one that accompanies the Yudo cover. It has this gorgeous calligraphy of kanji in front and a fold out of what the Yudo concept is trying to bring, with Japan known as the country of water, bringing relaxation to everyday life. And there's even a cute little sketch of someone in a Japanese bathhouse. I believe this is intended to track the different bathhouses you visit. So there's a diagram of the Japanese peninsula, and you can mark where the place was, what the date was, and what your thoughts in the bath were. So you don't have to strictly use it that way, but I really like the many different concepts that they come up with, the inserts they release. They also released a limited run for a Tokyo-themed cover. I sold the cover and I just kept the insert. So I really like this because it's embossed, and there's this gorgeous red foil which glimmers in the light that showcases a bunch of nicely designed icons that are associated with Tokyo. So you have Tokyo Tower, some sushi, karaoke, a lucky neko, sakura, and koyo. So the leaves that you get in autumn, some ramen, a sumo wrestler, Mount Fuji, etc. And then inside, the front page asks you to list your favorite places, food, and other things in Tokyo. And then you get the wonderful blank white paper. You don't necessarily have to use it on that trip, but I really like how the limited edition inserts bring something special to whenever you use them. I also got this one from the Superior Labor in Kurashiki, which is another store that does a collaboration with Traveler's Factory. That store, you can buy the Traveler's Company covers in their standard colors, which are blue, black, camel, brown, and olive, in either the regular size or passport size, and you can have them customized. So they typically sew on patches, pockets. They can change the enclosure. They have brass charms and like protector rivets. They even have wallets that you can attach to your covers if you're interested in using them for that use case. I have a video on TSL Kurashiki, and I note that they have a store limit. So if you find yourself in Japan and want to experience doing that as part of your trip, make sure that you get to Kurashiki early, at the very least by 10 a.m. when they open, because they usually fill up the 5 slots for the custom notebooks pretty quickly. So, yeah. I really like that the ecosystem of Traveler's Notebook has evolved so much that within the brand, there are little adventures like these, visiting their branches to look at the store exclusives, or picking up some limited edition covers or inserts, or even picking up a notebook that's been customized just for you at a specific location that's absolutely beautiful in Japan. It brings its own sense of adventure to something as simple as a notebook. So for anyone that would appeal to, this system just might be for you. Apart from the modularity, the functionality, I like that they balance it with novelty, with adventure, and with whimsy and creativity as well. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that there are many providers of inserts that fit inside the Traveler's Notebook, but they're not necessarily Traveler's Factory or Traveler's Company brand. So this, for example, is called Live Notes or Live Notes by Pen Gallery, and it also uses Tomoe River, but at a slightly thicker GSM. So this is 68 GSM. I think this is for people who really don't want any ghosting at all. I haven't tested this out, but I really like how the cover itself is a thicker cardstock, so it's a bit stiffer, and that might come in handy if you're the kind of person who sticks a lot of things inside your inserts. It's still nice and slim, and I think that's the second thing that I adore about the inserts, especially in the regular size, because they're at the perfect blend of just enough pages that they're still functional and I'm not constantly switching them out. But this sort of A5 height gives you enough room to write comprehensively. Because it's so slim, it's also not fatiguing, if that makes sense, for you to reach all the way across. And you end up filling up your inserts more often than not. So it's a system that encourages a lot of use. At least that's been my experience. There are brands like this, for example, called Sterling Ink, which offer planners that come in the Traveler's Notebook size. So this was my 2025 planner, and it was also the wonderful Tomoe River paper I talked about earlier. This is really full, so I started with my vision board. It had the yearly layouts, quarterly tracking, monthlies, and this was a vertical weekly, but it also comes in horizontal weekly. So if you like the horizontal and a blank page on the right side, Sterling Ink offers that, plus notes pages in the back. I really enjoyed using this system. In fact, it was one of my first forays into non-Traveler's Notebook planning systems. And I realized that I like the vertical weekly for memory keeping so much that I got an A5. But that's just to show you that there are so much options out there for a brand that's been around for this long. Now that brings me to the question, what do you do when your inserts are full? Traveler's Company has already answered that. They offer this binder insert, if you can call it that, or this Kraft binder accessory This one I find honestly is a bit pricey, so I only have one of this. But there are some knockoff brands that offer plastic binders which do the same thing. They fit the insert inside using a metal wire that I will show you in a bit. And I like these plastic ones because they come with the elastic enclosure. And as you can see, my inserts tend to get quite chunky, particularly the ones I use for the quarterly journals and my travel journals because I stick a lot of things in them. So having the elastic to secure them is really helpful. The Traveler's brand one does not come with an elastic, but it is a high quality Kraft cover. To be fair, it's quite thick and it comes with these protectors, these metal protectors on the corners. So it sits quite nicely on a shelf. Most people put the label down the spine so it becomes like a book. I use the Traveler's Company brand to house my most special inserts and usually the limited edition ones. And as mentioned, there's this little wire just that I will show you instead by inserting the quarterly journal where it's supposed to go. But the concept is you pull out a bit of the wire, you slide the notebook through, and and it sits securely where it's supposed to go. I really like this because even though you have stuck a lot of things inside your journal, because it's a thin metal wire, it's stable and secure enough to not release your insert over time. So with the elastic, of course, the natural wear and tear would make it loosen. And if it had to hold in so much chunky archived inserts, then it would very likely fail. So again, just one other thing that the Traveler's Notebook system has thought through really well. This is the third year now that I've been using the system. Honestly, seeing the inserts on my shelf covering each year and each travel trip encourages me to pull it out and leaf through them a lot. So I've never had that with other notebook or planner systems in the past. Oftentimes, I come up with a perfect system, I use it for a couple of months at most, and then I fall off. And I've never really leafed through my archives. It's only been with this Traveler's Notebook system that I have used it consistently enough to fill up 3 yearly binders and even more for my international trips, which I separate, and to pull them off the shelf and use them as a reference or leaf through them. That doesn't even begin to cover all the inserts that are available out there. There are a whole category of inserts that aren't even notebooks at all. There's the sticker release insert, the plastic pocket type inserts earlier. There's even washable inserts, if you believe it or not. There's this other frequently asked question, which is up to how many inserts can a notebook take, and also how to place them without overhang. I used to bind 2 inserts with a separate elastic like this, so center to center, and then slip this through the main elastic. But I noticed that if you have any other insert around it already, like a folder or the zip pockets I showed you, it causes this overhang. There is another way I discovered to put more inserts with less overhang. So this is threaded through the main elastic, and so is the Kraft folder right now. But this second insert has hitched itself on the Kraft folder rear instead. And that even gives me the option to string another insert on the secondary of the main binding. So let me just give you an example of what that will look like. I don't get too much overhang when I do that. It's not, you can see it's not really jutting out on this side. So you can actually fit 1, 2, 3, 4 inserts in a notebook plus a Kraft folder. I've seen 5 and 6 if the other one is slimmer or another folder. Let's try to fit one more insert. Hang on. Not insert the Kraft folder in that way, and to just put it in this way. So I use the Kraft folder as a sort of divider of the 2 inserts. It means that whatever I put into here is nicely sectioned off. I get insert 1, so when it's open, the Kraft folder gives me something flat to easily write on as well, without this one being too chunky. And if I decide to use the other insert, the one on the back, similarly, this one has a sort of platform to write on, and this one as well. For my personal use cases, I never really have more than 3 inserts in one. I usually have 2 plus some folders and accessories. But yeah, you can make it work for you if you really need, if you have several subjects, for example. This is where your clips will really come in handy too. I think this is where we can clearly see that the traveler's notebook stops being just a notebook cover and has the potential to function like a modular organizer for your entire analog life. Whether that's planning or documenting your trips or journaling throughout the year, or even tracking inks, painting, and using it as an on-the-go wallet or errands reference, the uses are endless. And they've even accounted for what to do when your inserts fill up. They have quietly solved the problem that most notebook systems never address to figure out what happens when you're done. I think it's just really cohesive and comprehensive, and if that's something that appeals to you and scratches the right itch for your analog needs, then here's your sign to try the Traveler's Notebook brand. Part of what keeps this community endlessly engaged is that Traveler's Company treats this less like stationery and more like collectible design, but design that's made by your actual life. Everyone looks forward to the limited edition covers each year, the seasonal colorways, and anniversary releases. But also, if you'd rather the simple and reliable plain colors, they're just as gorgeous, especially when they've patinaed for some time. You will not have just one, trust me. I thought I would only have one, and then I realized how well this system could accommodate the variety of my life, that the variety of my life has obviously filled up many different covers. In terms of damage, the first scratch will stress you out, but over time, as you use it, it becomes evidence of the fact that your notebooks are well loved and well lived in. I've even added patches to it, so you can see you can add iron-on patches to it. I've seen a lot of people do that. You can thread through charms, which I haven't talked about yet. So I currently have thread through a Japanese yen coin through mine, but let me show you some other kinds of charms. My Yudo cover, this blue one, this is also a charm offered by the Traveler's Factory. It's a collaboration with a woodworking artist from Japan, and it's called a Yosegi charm. So it also comes in a circular shape, in the shape of a house, and it features different kinds of woods from Japan. There are also off-brand charms. Let me pull out my little collection right here. I have an airplane one, and then I have a filmmaking one, which was for my YouTube insert, binoculars, an anchor, double-decker bus, and yeah. With the demand there, there's just going to be new, useful, and appealing products year in and year out. There are also tags like this, so not necessarily brass charms that you put on the enclosure, but maybe on the side of the notebook, like this Bentley and Job's polar bear. This is made with leather, and it's adorable because they have versions where there's a fish in the mouth of a polar bear, but in my case, I got the one with the Traveler's Notebook inside the mouth of the polar bear. So I found it adorable, and it matched my blue cover so well. On the elastic binding, I've even threaded on an extra piece of leather because I like how it shields the papers inside. If you're familiar with the Hobonichi Weeks, which is a different kind of planner, I will say it is smaller than the Traveler's Notebook itself. I've seen some people attempt to fit it in by slotting it into a Kraft folder, or some even cut down their journals, which is not something I'm willing to do at this point. But it just goes to show how much this system really offers you the ability to make your notebooks truly yours. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is whether or not they lay flat. So that's very important for writing. Let's take this olive in regular size. Even when the Traveler's Notebook is new, I've honestly never had problems getting it to lay flat, though with thicker inserts, or if the first half already has a lot of ephemera and stickers and it starts to get heavy and you open it, it may not lie flat. So the Traveler's Company brand has also thought of that. They offer these clips. This is in the Travelers Have a Nice Trip theme that has an airplane on it. I believe these come in many different designs, just the standard one with the branding. I believe they have a collaboration one with Starbucks Roastery, if that's your thing. And it's really nice to just clip on to the side or to the entire thing. I have a second clip here. And then it gives you that nice lay flat orientation so that it's really easy for you to write. And of course, there's no rings in the middle to bump up against your hand, which makes it really easy to write. The narrower width with this A5 height is absolutely perfect for me personally, because once it's open like this, it doesn't take up too much space on the table, and it's relatively easy for you to fill up horizontally and gives you enough room, like if you have a weekly spread like this, to really have enough space to visualize what you need to visualize. It's useful if you're in a meeting or a cafe where you can't really predict how much space you're gonna have. That's one last note for the modularity functionality of the system. This is really the heart of why I've kept this system, I think, over every other system I've tried. I've tried Plotter, I've tried Hobonichi, and the one that gets the most use for me is really my traveler's notebook. It's because it doesn't ask you to be one kind of person. I've never been the kind of person who enjoys being pigeonholed or being told that I have too many interests to count, because as long as I'm alive, I will pursue what I'm interested in. And these notebooks allow me to do that. So the same cover that held my daily planning insert in 2025 is holding something completely different this year. And I didn't have to start over or let go of the materials that I already had. On top of that, if you're the kind of person who loves traveling, the Traveler's Notebook offerings that are location exclusive or limited edition, or even the standard ones that you pick up on your trip to Japan, become genuine travel souvenirs in the truest sense. I believe Paper Republic and Louise Carmen both make well-regarded covers that work with the same customizable, swappable, mix and match insert concept. They do come in wider sizes. They have various options. One even has a trifold, which, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the kind of person who prefers something that's quite compact because I don't know if I will be journaling in a cafe with a lot of space. I struggle with the trifold, and the slimmer size of the Traveler's Notebook has fit my system a bit better. It really wins on portability and usability, just in my case. Plus, I get to see all my used up inserts archived in my binders. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and if you've tried other systems that you find a touch better than the Traveler's Notebook. Maybe the real reason this system has stuck for as long as it has isn't really the leather or the cord, but it's that the community around it keeps growing. I hope that was comprehensive enough to give you a good overview of the system and how it works, and enough inspiration to figure out how you could possibly use the system to help make your life a little more colorful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!